This is a special Monday live stream because this is Labor Day and market is closed and I have nowhere to be for a couple of hours. So we're going to go over, I guess, a couple of things. We'll do the early slate, and then after I finish the early slate, I'm going to be doing a recording with Goldie for the main slate in MLB. And if you guys come on and have any questions about anything, I can consider this sort of office hours or something if you want. Again, I didn't advertise this as such, but if anybody happens to be around, talk about anything DFS related. We have football coming up this weekend. I already took a quick look. I have a couple of early takes if you guys want those from me. As well, we're going to be doing recordings, Bobby and I, throughout the week on what's going on. So I might as well share my screen here. So what I have going on the other screen, I don't know if we're allowed to show this, but who cares? So we have what's his name going on? We have LOL going on the right, the EU Masters round robin. And this is, by the way, for those of you that have not ever watched, I'll get there, KTW. And do you know, for those of you who ever follow League of Legends, this is what a stomping looks like. I was about to show you, I thought it was going to be a shutout, which doesn't happen all too often, but it looks as though MCK is coming back just a little bit. It's a 12-1 kill destruction right now. This is a round robin. Everybody's got to play everybody. So this is what's going on here. And you know what? Because KTW, you're so polite and asking, I am going to do this right now. And what I'll also do, I'm going to share my I'll share my both my stacks and my projections up here. Special, we don't do it too often, but we'll do it today. Let's put this over here. So first of all, with respect to the pitching on the early slate, the two chalks are going to be whatchamacallit, well, I gotta keep an eye on this, would be Jack Flaherty, and I believe it's going to be Kevin Gausman would be the second most logical. Jack Flaherty is just completely mispriced here at 7,200. The only thing that's keeping him from being, I guess, 100% owned is fear that maybe he might be on some sort of pitch count. But I don't know. He did have 100 pitches in his last rehab start, and it seems as though it's good enough for me. So I think Flaherty is clearly the best play on the slate. And because you can get to everybody you want hitting wise, regardless of price, I think that, and partially because Flaherty's 7,200, you could probably end up just jamming in Gausman as the second best pitcher. And that's what probably people are going to do. Let's take a little peek. This is not ended yet. So that's pitching wise for me. It's going to be, and again, we're talking about the best plays. Then we're going to talk about how to differentiate in GPPs. But Flaherty seems to be the best play. And pitching wise, there's Gausman, and then the next one would be Jameson Taillon. I think that's going to be the natural pivot. I think people are going to play some Taillon as well. And then if you want to do stuff like pivot off the pivot and that type of thing, then we're dropping way down to guys like Patino and Waka or whatever. So it's unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, one of those early slates when it is pretty clear, like there really are only three pitchers that rate strong enough to play. And if it were me, listen, it would be Flaherty. If ownership weren't a thing or whatever, it would be Flaherty, Flaherty Gausman, Flaherty Taillon, maybe one or maybe 10%, 15% of my lineups would have Gausman, Taillon together, and fade Flaherty, just for purposes of diversification. This is crushing. So let's look at the stacks, and I will say, and this is something we can keep an eye on, that the lineups are not out for some of these later games, specifically the Milwaukee game. which looks to be, for lack of a better term, I mean, like kind of a lock, right? I mean, they're playing at Coors. It's a small slate, not too much competition if you want to know the truth. But let's see how it looks. So I mean, to give you an idea, I want to rank these stacks by a couple of metrics. First, we're going to rank them by raw, and then we're going to rank them by value. And you have to be with me for a while to understand this, but to have like a 10-point edge over everybody else, that's pretty significant. Now I have seen worse. I mean, if you want to know the truth, I have seen. Let's take a peek over here again. Oh, this is just a crush. I have seen worse, but this is a pretty sizable edge. The only thing I would say is that these projections do presume Yelich is playing, and I can't imagine why I would presume that, since he hasn't played in a week. He shows up as questionable on every lineup page, and then he ends up getting, he's not in the lineup. So I don't know why we're going to keep projecting him until they tell us he's playing. It'd be pretty. I guess this would be the time that he would come back, right? In kind of an easy stadium, maybe. But I think he might be someone that I might be inclined to fade if he plays. I mean, why not, right? If you have to fade somebody, why not fade the guy with the knee issue? I don't know. But I do have Milwaukee as, just as far as pure rating goes, clearly the best stack. That's by raw points. Let's now look at it from a modified stack perspective, which is another really cool way to look at things. Kind of takes into account point per dollar a little bit more. And you usually get cheapos here at the top of this range. And just it goes to show you what a strong play Milwaukee is that it's not only head and shoulders above in raw points, but it's also head and shoulders above in modified stack score, which doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen all too often. Again, sorry, being DGen Monday, we're going to have to keep going back to this. It's 14-2. I don't know what I'm worried about, but I just want to make sure I get this first thing, this first team. I have 100% of this team, so I have to get this. First. I have to get this stomp kind of like in order here. Let's watch a little bit of it. Let's even take a couple of guys out. There you go. There's one guy down, 15-2. I think what's going to happen is if they get all the rest of these guys, they'll get the ace here. Then they might be able to just close the game out and just be done that way. Anyway, I think that it is kind of important, though, to take a look at, the other teams that you want to use, whether you want to use another team as a complementary stack, or if we don't want to do that, if you want to find some good one-offs. So we have a little time, so let's go through some of this. Let's go back to the raw stack ratings, and we'll look at it this way. You'll see that you have Colorado, St. Louis, Toronto, and the Yankees all very, very close underneath Milwaukee, okay? And this is what's kind of interesting to me. And we'll get back to which one you pick in a minute. And then there's a big drop to these others: Boston, Baltimore, Tampa, Minnesota, Washington. And that's when you look at it from a raw perspective. And then let's look at it from a modified stack perspective. Here you do have kind of a more of a, well, I shouldn't say that, but I was going to say there are two teams that stand out over the others. So let's just say St. Louis and Colorado would be the two next plays, ranking by modified. And then there's kind of a drop to Minnesota, the Yankees, and Tampa. So the two teams that show up when you go into the modified as opposed to raw would be Minnesota and Tampa, right? These are the ones that did not show up when we did it that way. So these are the teams I'm kind of thinking about. Like maybe Minnesota and Tampa would be the ones to kind of get in there, maybe, depending on ownership. Now, let's go back and take a look at the ownership here and try to put all of this together. So yeah, the favorite stack was Milwaukee. But again, this is just, who do I think is going to score the most and who do I think is the best value? they're going to be I mean, it's very, very highly owned. And if you play GPPs trying to win the big lottery, I mean, you're not going to be able to pair, you know, Flaherty with Gausman or Flaherty with Talion and then stack Milwaukee unless you get really super duper creative with the rest of it. And you know, and have a really, really good EV chance to take something big down, which is what you're trying to do. Let's take a look at the ownership, though. So as I mentioned, like the Milwaukee ownership is probably twice as much as anybody else. And then let's take a look and you get any kind of break. It looks as though Toronto, of these, you know, these natural pivot teams, is the lowest owned of these others. So if you were going to go ahead and take another team to, you know, to either fully stack or do a complementary stack, I would think that Toronto would be the team to probably go to, okay, if you're looking from a raw perspective. And then what we're going to do is do the same thing. Hold on, let's go back to the League of Legends thing and see if that's over yet. Let's see what we got. Oh, this is the replay. So let's, oh, they're going to get, did MCK get anything out of this? Let's see. No, it looks like GW is going to come crashing on them. Let's just take a look. It's one of those weird things you almost want to root. Hey, Blue got something. It's one of those weird things. Oh, it's 15-4. So on the one hand, GW didn't completely close them out, but yet on the other hand, that means that there's more opportunity to do some more damage. It's actually getting kind of close here, I guess. Gold lead is pretty reasonable. Only 4,000. The other team has some towers and some dragons. Anyway, all right, so let's look at this again from a modified perspective and see if you get any kind of ownership break with any of these guys. So as I said, St. Louis and Colorado will be the next ones, but you don't really get too much of an ownership break. The team that you get the ownership break on are Tampa and Minnesota. Okay, so these are the teams that you kind of want to look at. You look at from the raw perspective, Toronto, and from the value perspective, Minnesota, Tampa. And this is what you do when you're trying to narrow down who you can use, especially in GPP. So what I would do, I would try to focus in on those four teams. So it would be Milwaukee, then it would be Toronto, then it would be Minnesota, then it would be Tampa. Okay. And then it just depends on how many lineups you play, how much you do. I mean, I'm probably going to, just for fun, make sure to have one full 5-man stack of all of those teams. You know, even of Tampa and Minnesota, certainly Toronto, right? But I'm also going to make sure to have, you know, these teams mixed in with Milwaukee. So I think that I'm going to have kind of those four teams shuffled throughout my lineups. And that's all presumes that, you know, well, it doesn't presume anything. We still have to watch for lineup changes and things like that. Look at this, MCK going for a Baron here. Let's see if they can get away with this. It's going to be interesting if they can get away with it. Yeah, they do. Let's see if they can get out. I would imagine not. So this is one of those LOL things where the team got the Baron, but let's see if how many guys does GW have to take out to make it not worth it? Because having the Baron buff gives them a lot of pressure. So if they only gave up one guy for that, oh, maybe they can come back a little bit. I doubt it, but who knows? Anyway, all right. So now what I want to do, now that we've kind of like laid this out, is let's take a look at the one-offs. I did mention I would do that. So let's take a look at the one-offs. And it's really important to differentiate between kind of value one-offs and regular one-offs. So let's go back to our projection page and we'll rate just everybody. And let's just take a look at some of these one-offs. And what we're trying to focus on are guys that are not Milwaukee, if we can. But let's just take a look. So one of the reasons why this Tampa works out is this guy Aranda is a second baseman at 2K. Now again, we don't even have the lineups yet. Let me see. Let's take a look at the lineups. If there's anything out there yet upcoming, it would be nice if that guy made it in. Yeah, we have We have nothing. I don't even have the Tampa lineups yet. But if this guy makes it in, I mean, that's going to be pretty strong. And then got Newt Bar looks good over here. It'd be nice if you get a low-owned guy. Corey Dickerson, under 10%. That's pretty good. So if you use these St. Louis guys kind of as one-offs, I think it makes somewhat sense. I don't want to play Donovan at 16% or anything like that. And you'll see that some of these don't have any ownership projections yet. That will change as we, maybe I'll do one more update. What's interesting, among other things, is kind of the layout of the slate. When you look at it, these are not really the lineups I'm going to use yet. But when you edit this, you see that you have 2 games going off at 1, and then the others at 4 o'clock. So the first thing I guess you do have to consider, considering the fact that you might not have the 4:10 p.m. games until well after lock of the 105 games. You have to consider what you want to do in these early games. Like do you want to play Gausman, for example? That's a really important decision. Do you want to play Talion? These are 2 of those 3 pitchers, and they're going off in this first set of games. And then, like I said, I mean, Toronto's a really big pivot stack, as is, in my opinion, Minnesota. You know what's interesting, by the way, about the Minnesota side? If this were kind of like if we were in a classroom setting, I would ask. Yeah, that's what I'm at. I don't know Flaherty. I don't know DePrince. That's the thing. There's just nothing mentioned. That's the only thing that's stopping him from being 100% owned. Is that possibility? He did have a 100-pitch start in the minors, so quite honestly, I don't even think it matters all that much. One thing that's cool about the Minnesota side of it, and then we'll get to the individual bats, is that Talion is going to be popular, right? So Minnesota, as opposed to some of all those other pivots like Toronto or Tampa or St. Louis or the other guys I mentioned, or Toronto or whatever, you're at least with Minnesota, you're facing a pitcher that is going to get ownership, so you get a little bit of leverage. So with respect to the Minnesota bats, again, we're actually still waiting on those lineups as well. So we kind of have to see, but like right now, it would be just the normal cast of characters, that being Arraez, Kepler, Correa. I like Nick Gordon, Jose Miranda. Those would be my favorites. And then, you could always use Torres and Urshela or whatever. But I guess Correa, Kepler, Gordon, Miranda, probably my favorites. And then Correa also as well. So those would be my favorite of the Minnesota bats. Let me just take one more look at the at this thing here. Look, they're coming. They're fighting. They're fighting hard. Wow, look at this. This was 14-0, and they're fighting. The gold lead is almost even. This is quite the it's becoming quite the scrap here. But like in a weird way, it's actually almost good for GW that it wasn't a total crushing, because then they might have just won like 16-2 or something. Because this is going on and on, they might end up winning this game with like 30 kills, which is better than like a 16-2. It's kind of better to win like 30-18. Let's just take a look and see. Okay, so let's look at this one scrap, and then we're gonna do a Saber Sim build with the early slate. Let's just take a look at this one little fight here. And I really do love this. I'm not even kidding. I really love playing the LOL slates. It's a real good exercise in trying to get unique. It's a really good exercise in learning about correlation and things like that. And I've actually learned a little bit about the actual gameplay over the last year or so. I can't play myself, but just listen. It's always fun for me to learn new things and to analyze new things. So this was big. So they're gonna take this Baron. If anybody's following this, whatever. But I will do the Saber Sim thing. Just give me 30 seconds. Let me just watch this Watch them try to steal this Baron, which should be, I would imagine, the end of the game if they can get rid of this and then get out of there without getting killed. Let's see. Well, Blue's going in to try to punish them a little bit, but I just don't think anything's going to come of that. And if they get really one kill here, then they just are just going to crush. Now look at that. See, they didn't get out completely unscathed. Let's see. This is the scrap that could determine the game right now. So let's just look at this. Give me 15 seconds, then we'll go back to the SaberSim build. Are they going to disappear? Okay. So, all right. Let's do a SaberSim build so I can show you guys exactly what I do. Let's go back into here and let's just start all over. So we're going to go into wait, where'd this go? Okay. So let's reset the players, and I do this a little differently than if you were on the site. But I upload my custom projections to SaberSim. Has my ownership, it has everything in there. We'll exclude unlisted players, and then what we'll do is we'll just run this, and we'll run it with their natural sliders here. We'll run 30 lineups. Not allow batters versus opposing pitchers. I don't think the slate is small enough for that. We're not going to do anything with the salaries, min uniqueness 1, and we'll just run 30 lineups, and let's see what we would get if we did this. Now, I just presume, now again, we don't even have the lineups yet, so we're going to have to do this again, obviously. But given who they're projecting, we're going to see, let's see this thing again. This is becoming quite a... pretty interesting. I would have thought that red would have pushed them through. They have the Baron buff here. They should be able to push these guys around, but they're not getting away with it. And needless to say, this would be quite an upset if somehow Blue could turn this around. But we shall see. But right now, SaberSim is just working, so we have a second here. Let's take a look. So this guy's coming in from the flank. Let's see if he can grab these guys. Ooh, is he going to get him? Maybe. He's trying to turn it around here. This is not so easy. Yeah, he's going to get him eventually. So this could be a problem. And now they're all going down. So that should be the end. Well, maybe. We'll see. All right, so let's see what we got. Given... What was that? Given what we put in, first of all, you're getting, from a pitching perspective, you'd be getting almost 100% Flaherty, and you're getting, you're getting more of these others than I would have thought. You're getting 10% Archer, you're getting 13% Waka, you're getting 20% Patino. So you're not just getting the combination. Let me go back here for a second. Of those 3 pitchers, okay, which is somewhat interesting. Now let's take a look at the teams we're getting, and obviously we're getting 100% Milwaukee. But what's interesting is that you are getting some Minnesota. You're not getting any Tampa though, which is interesting, which is sort of interesting to me. Now here's another thing. Let's look at the stacks here, and you're getting mostly 5-2s, 5s, 5-3s, and things like that. So the one thing I do notice, by the way, again, is that you're getting all this Christian Yelich. And however, I don't even know if he's going to play. So we're going to kind of take a look. So what would I do in a situation like this? Like if I were playing 30 lineups and I ran a build and I got literally 100% Milwaukee, what would I do with that? I mean, would I just roll with it? Would I try to force other teams in? And that's kind of a decision based on your risk tolerance, you know? I don't think that I would want to be 100% exposed to a team that's going to be that popular. It's hard enough to be 100% exposed to a team at all, but to be 100% exposed to a team that's popular, it's tough, you know? It's just tough it's tough from a risk tolerance perspective. I'd like to kind of get a little bit of leverage in here. So maybe what I would do is something like this. So remember I mentioned Tampa? I wanted more of that. So I probably put in, let's just say, minimum 20% Tampa. Okay, so now it's giving me 20% Tampa. And let's make sure we get at least 20% Minnesota, like I mentioned. And then also a minimum of 20% Toronto. Then I'll give you a little secret SaberSim trip. Let's take a look at this. See, this is what I was referring to here about this LOL thing. It's a weird thing, and the concept in backgammon, for anybody's heard of this, is Weaver. Wait, no, this game over? They didn't finish it yet? They paused? I don't know what's going on here. I'm back to the announcers. Anyway, we'll get back to being Weavered in a minute. So if I did this and I forced these guys in, I would have 80% Milwaukee and then 30% Minnesota, 20% Toronto, 20% Minnesota, Tampa, whatever. So what that's doing is it's at least pairing Milwaukee with these guys. But what I think I might want to do is limit my Milwaukee exposure. You know, so let's just say I did maximum of, say, 50% of Milwaukee. Okay. Now what I end up getting is actually more Minnesota than Milwaukee, and then you're getting a little bit of everything. The only thing I would do to kind of change this build, and again, we have to check lineups, we have to do all this stuff, is I also want to see, I want to make sure that SaberSim is not just giving me, it's not just not just doing me a favor. Let me go back to this for a second and giving me this. I'll show you what I mean. Sometimes they say, okay, we'll give you 50%. 53% Milwaukee, 23% Toronto, whatever, and give you 0 5-man stacks with those teams. Let's take a look where the 5-man stacks go. It's actually not bad. So it gives you 40% Milwaukee 5-man stacks, 16% Minnesota. It's not giving me any Tampas. So again, just to give myself something, maybe I'll put in a minimum of 5% of Tampa 5-mans. Just to make sure that I have 5-mans of everything. And Toronto, just to make sure I have at least maybe 10% of Toronto 5-mans. Okay, so this is actually kind of an interesting kind of a build I can live with. Because it reflects my projections somewhat, and I do respect the let me go back here. I do respect the SaberSim builds, but yet. I want to kind of force in a little bit of leverage, So to finish off this build, this would have my pitchers. I would have basically have locked in Flaherty, which is fine. 40% Gausman, which is good enough. Then Talion. Wow, this is giving me some of this Colorado guy, and this is just ultimate leverage, right? Like if you somehow get this guy, I mean, listen, it's baseball, right? If Milwaukee's not hitting. And you can get Feltner again, 15 fantasy points or something. He's going to be like 2% owned. So I don't think that's that bad, actually. And Chris Archer, too. I mean, who knows? I kind of like doing this. And listen, it's only for a couple lineups, right? But that's all you need, is one little bit of listen, let's say that Flaherty kind of does have the pitch count, and he doesn't do that well. And let's say that I don't know. Baltimore's been playing really well, hitting really well. Who's to say that Gausman doesn't get rocked? And Talion too. So it's possible that a 15-point performance out of Feltner, if things break his way, could break the slate. So listen, it's probably the worst play, but in GPPs, you almost sometimes want to have the worst play. That makes any sense. I hope that wasn't too off the wall. All right, so this is still going on here. Let's take a look at this crush a second. Now I'm going to go back and check. Let's go check some lineups. Let me see if there's any lineups that have been released yet. I don't think so. I would like to have at least the first set of lineups. Let's see those. Hang on. All I got is Baltimore. Oh, wait, Yankees, Baltimore, and the Yankees, and Minnesota. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just so I could see who's scratched, I am going to download these to my. Well, first thing I want to do, what I want to do first. So I want to scratch Yelich. Let's not scratch him yet, but that's something I could do. Like he's hitting leadoff, Oops. He's hitting leadoff, and he's going to be the most popular of all of them, probably. Why can't I do this? Less data? Closing other applications? I don't know what's going on here. I shouldn't have any problem with this. And I'll do this a little bit later, I suppose. Let's look at the closing out of this game. I think this is closing out. This game never ends. One thing I will say, I am very happy that I have this GW team locked in, because, I mean, if this plays out probably the way it's supposed to here, remember, supposed to is kind of interesting, but let's see, they kill these guys yet? These MCK guys don't go down so easy. But then what ends up happening is that they just kind of push they kind of push GW's kills to like the 30 mark, and if GW gets like 30 kills, that's the end of the slate pretty much, because nobody really gets 30 kills. It's very unlikely. But oh, they're coming in here. MCK is coming in to grab this. They did, and what does GW want to do here? I don't know what they're doing. This is a pretty crazy game. This really is a pretty crazy game of LOL. This honestly could be a game where GW out kills MCK by like 10 or so, and doesn't even win the game. Because it's very close with the exception of the kills. So it's like kind of like the weird thing about DFS versus real life. Like if I had the announcers on right now, I bet you they would think that MCK was really doing pretty decently here. Even though from a DFS perspective, they're obviously, it looks like they're getting crushed, like 24-10 as far as kills go, which is really almost all that matters. Let's see. Oh no, they shut them down. Okay, this should be the end. Okay. Yeah, so now they have 27 kills, whatever it is. Now, I would love to know why I can't. Love to know why I'm having trouble with my saving all my data. But we'll deal with that later. So we'll close my Excel spreadsheets. Maybe that'll help. 29. Oh my God. You guys are present for something that doesn't happen all that often. 30 kills in a League of Legends game. You may not get 30. These guys have to respawn before you get one more kill here. Now maybe it's going to land on 29. See these blue guys coming from over here to try to save it, then they'll get to 30. But otherwise, he's just going to knock this out and not 29. All right. Let's just see now if I can't do this. Okay, so now I can do this. So. Now let's do what I was doing before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just upload these lineups to DraftKings. And for me, the only reason is I want to see who's scratched. So we'll just upload this. Just I can afford to show you these because I'm probably not going to actually play them because I am going to have to see lineups, right? I can't just plug these guys in without running it again. Hold on, let's see. Okay, so let's take a look at what it looks like now. Yeah, so all these Minnesota guys are in. So to answer your question about the Minnesota guys, I have them all, and they're the guys that are high in the lineup. You know, yeah, Miranda hitting 4th, Gordon hitting 5th, Correa hitting 2nd, Kepler hitting 3rd, and then Sanchez hitting 8th is probably a good catcher. Let me see if there's anybody that I have in my line that I would have in my lineups that were scratched. No, so the Toronto guys are out. Not are out. The lineups are out. No real surprises there. You do have Jake Cave hitting 7th, which is showing up as a good play. You know, So there are two things, like from build perspective, that I'm considering, and that is if again, and I would go back to Saberson to do this. Obviously, if there's news comes out on a Flaherty pitch count, I have to adjust my stuff or whatever. And then obviously the Milwaukee lineup, both from the perspective of whether I want to play Yelich and also from the perspective of whether I want to play whoever is in instead of Yelich, right? Because Yelich is one being projected, so someone's not being projected that's going to get into these lineups. And those are, I think, almost always going to be underowned, because not everybody updates their projections throughout the course of the day. And some people, what they'll do is they'll put in the Yelich, and then when they see the Yelich is scratched, they'll just swap him out for, somebody of the same price or something like that. And they won't rerun it. They won't give the guy who replaced him all that much credit. It's not like the NBA. The NBA is interesting. The NBA, if some guy's announced out, everybody knows who's replacing him right away, and that guy automatically becomes like 70%. You know what I mean? Whereas baseball, it's listen, it's obviously it's a lot different. If you get a reserve coming in baseball hitting seventh instead of somebody else, it's not as if you have to have that guy or you lose. Like in the NBA, if you're the center for a team is out and you have a 3K guy that's coming in and he's starting, you just have to play him. More so even the point guard. Like a point guard comes in, you have John Morant out and Tyus Jones is starting. I mean, like you're at 3K, you have to play him. Baseball is not exactly the same. It's not as if, Yelich is ruled out. Ooh, whoever gets ruled, put it in his place is a lock. It doesn't work that way, just because the way results distribute in baseball. So all I'm doing right now is kind of waiting on some lineups. So what I'll do is I'm going to I'll give you guys a couple of takes in football, just for the help. But let's take a look at my tennis for a second. See how the tennis lineups are looking. There's only one match that really started. So Nori is losing to Rublev. So that's the key kind of thing. So I do have 50% Rublev and 42% Nori. So that's actually a pretty good start. And Rublev's already up a break in the second. But let's take a look at the ownership. He's 42% owned compared to Nori, who is 44. So Rublev is actually the preferred result. And I have two which fade. So it's fine. So what I want to do is I'm going to give a couple of real quick looks at the NFL and just kind of, give you a really, really brief thing of what I'm looking at like right now. And this is not necessarily it, but there are still some quarterbacks. I don't even know who's starting or whatever it is, but this is my initial instinct. First of all, I'm going to play more lineups this year. Forever, I only play 20 lineups in the NBA, in the NFL. I might max enter this year instead of playing. I was going to either max enter the 150, or I was going to just play some more bigger lineups. I don't know which way. It really may depend on the slate. But what I'm going to do in this first week, I'm going to try to make this a point, is to really just kind of not spread myself too thin. In other words, not just make a case for every freaking team, every freaking game, and every freaking situation. Okay. But the idea with GPPs in the NFL is, again, you want to find the games to stack, meaning you want to find those games that can go off. And that's really the key. I don't think you're going to win picking like individual plays. You got to get the team right. And then you fill it in with good one-offs, usually good running backs and things like that, and get lucky at defense. So here's my initial look. My initial look is I'm not going to want to have anything to do with the Baltimore Jet game. I just literally not interested. And you're going to hear this content-wise throughout the course of the whole season. Oh yeah, I could probably play a little of this. They'll be low owned. They can win someone $1 million. Or I don't know. I'm just not going to do it. I think I want to have some interest in this New Orleans-Atlanta game. The problem is that I don't exactly see how Atlanta is going to make this close. So where you can play Kamara and Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas, whoever's playing for New Orleans, I don't think Atlanta is going to put enough resistance up to keep this close. So that game is probably very secondary for me, if anything. Um, I'm also kind of moderately interested in this Indianapolis game, and I'll play the Indianapolis offense, starting with Michael Pittman, and that whole group, and you get a run back with Cooks. But again, neither of those first 2 games or 3 games are that much of a priority. And then also, I think this fourth game is kind of a lemon. This Jacksonville-Washington game, I just think they're better skill position guys and better skill position teams to go after. And I think the first one I'm going to really focus on, and I probably 3 or 4 games I really want to focus on it. This Philadelphia-Detroit game, I think, is going to be a really good one. I think that you have some elite receivers, some people know about, some don't, that are going to be going after each other. And Jalen Hurts kind of makes things go, and Detroit was not that bad last year towards the end, and so I like this game a lot. I like it. What's his name from AJ Brown from it's on Philly now, and the A St. Brown on Detroit is a freaking stud. I could see those two kind of going at it. DeAndre Swift's going to be a good play. I think it's going to be one of the key games. So I would focus on Detroit, Philly. New England, Miami, I'll have none of that. San Francisco, Chicago, I'll have none of that. Both of those rate to be really slow. I don't need it. Likewise, Cleveland, Carolina. Look, what's his name? McCaffrey's going to be a really good play at the running back position. Totally agree. But as far as stacking a game, I don't really need that. Similarly, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, you might get some individual plays out of there, but it doesn't seem like a shootout type of situation. And these other 2, Green Bay, Minnesota, not that I don't think this is going to be that great. I think the Giants, Tennessee is going to be kind of a lemon. But what I do like are these last 2 games. Vegas and the Chargers, I think, can put up a lot of points between Herbert and all his receivers. And then you have Derek Carr, who's getting what's his name? Devontae Adams. I think this game could go off. And certainly this last game, this Kansas City-Arizona game, I mean, it's going to go freaking bananas. I mean, Arizona plays really fast. And yeah, the Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill, but who cares? I mean, they're going to – Mahomes is going to sling it. They picked up Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is going to be a really good play this week. Kelsey's going to be a really good play. And Arizona, they have one of my favorite value plays if he plays on the slate, and it's Rondell Moore. So my initial take on football is this game, these 2 late games, the Arizona game, the Charger game, and the Detroit-Philly game. Those are my top ones. And then my secondary ones would be maybe the Indiana-Houston and or the New Orleans-Atlanta. I really don't want to play that many teams and not that many games. As far as running backs, I mentioned McCaffrey. I mentioned Joe Mixon. Actually, I didn't mention Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's a strong play. And defenses, I'm going to reiterate my comments of last season. I like Barkley, by the way, this week. I reiterate my comments of last season is do not play a chalky defense. I just wouldn't do it. There's way too much variance in defense. And I also wouldn't want to play too much of any defense either. So that's pretty much all I have. So what did we do? We did a kind of a summary of the plays. We're going to look at the lineups. Look, you don't want to give one more lineup look? Let's take one more look and see. One more lineup look. And then I'm gonna do my lineups more, and then I'm gonna prepare for my recording with Justin. So yeah, I guess in summary, baseball, Milwaukee, obviously strong play, but I would play some Minnesota, play some Tampa, play some Toronto. Pitching, obviously Flaherty's the best play. And there's Gausman, but you could filter in some of these other teams as well. Some of these other pitchers as well. It's a very short slate and a lot of chalk in one couple of areas. So all you need is a couple of little hoodoos that get rolling, and you can really do some damage. I'm not going to be available live tonight. I have a barbecue a little later, so hopefully Bobby's around to handle that. But at the very least, hopefully Justin and I get to do a pretty extensive breakdown of the rest of the evening main slate. That'll do it. Good luck, everybody, and I'll catch you next time.